Alright guys, what's going on? So today we'll be doing our, generational long tarot card reading. I call this the Pyramid's Path, and today, as you can see, we have our sights set on Libra. Always trying to relate to you, Libra. So, cardinal air, let's get it going, right? So, forgive my shuffling, it's relatively mediocre with these fat-ass cards. My bad. We have the Starseed Oracle cards today. They got the cool artwork on them. I just like making up this reading. I really got, which one? Yeah, I don't want to say all that. And as usual, we'll cut the deck on the sign we're reading on. And we'll start laying them out. So in this reading, we have a total of about 15 cards. I like to do this in sort of a dimensional sense, to where it's like, you start out with the core vibrations that sort of lead to your life. Your right side is where you started, your left side is where you're going. I say the right side is where you're starting because this is your righteous side, the side you're knowledgeable of, so on and so forth. And then in total we have 4 cards, then 3 cards, then 2 cards, then 1 conclusion to basically lead us up to the, direction and path you should be facing in life. So let's sort of get our thoughts in the way. And as we sort of build out the reading here, we can sort of see why we call this the Pyramid's Path. So a little more explanation on this. How I necessarily do this reading is we get the 5 main vibrations, the 5 main feelings that carry us through our life from beginning to past. Sometimes they happen linearly, sometimes they happen in a cycle. Excuse me. I know it's in the shape of a pyramid here, so you may sort of imagine it as more of a linear thing, but when we speak in dimensional, spiritual, all that type of woo-woo stuff, we got to look at it as sort of a circle, an ecliptic. Each feeling and experience is a space and location in itself, and how it shapes itself can be any type of wave, any type of shape and form. Really, how you bring this together is on you. I'm merely telling you the vibrations and the stacks and the experiences and the 2 pillars of how you're going to get where you're going to go. So once again, this reading's for Libra, so as I go in, I'll explain a little bit more about this style, but let's get started. So let's start in the beginning, where all things start. Sorry, Libras. So in the beginning, you guys are lifting the veil. It says, questioning everything, anything on a line must go, and you're just sort of cleaning house from the jump. This is what you do, you're figuring out, you're creating your ways to think, you're learning how you learn, and this card usually, to me, symbolizes going through the experience of refining how you learn. This can be kind of tough at first because, when you're learning how you learn, this isn't an immediate skill that can actually be showed to the world right away. You just sort of know things and kind of conversate, and you'll be a lot like the fixed signs, where you're more self-actualized than other signs at an early age. So people will see you as more adult-like, and even though you may not, you don't have a lot going for yourself necessarily, you're, adult-like. You know how you learn. But don't be mad, because this skill in itself is a huge skill. It's a big deal, because later down the line you'll learn that you can figure things out at a lot faster rate than others, and you'll begin to see at quite an early age, maybe like 15, 16, so on and so forth, that other people sort of just stop, improving for some reason. It's just kind of weird, and you just sort of notice these weird little things about how people sort of find their rut and they just get stuck in it. Let's see what happens next. So the next one is the weight of the world, right? I mean, just look at this right here. When you sort of going through this experience of, oh, I'm the one that's been learning how I learned this whole time, refining myself, refining my intelligence, refining my own ability to intake information, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to let things go, let people that were with you early carry on, let people create boundaries for yourself, restrictions, limits. I know Libras are at home in Saturn here, but it's not always yours to carry. So with this being said, this is basically what I just said for this card right here, where it was like, oh, I'm going through life and I'm experiencing things to where it's like, wait, what? Like, you can stop improving? Like, did that happen? You're not self-regulatory? Like, what? I'm not saying you Libras are the best at this. Come on, trust me, I'm an Aries moon. I got my opinions on that. So the next card in the life path here is, oh, I forgot to explain. So with this being 5, this carries sort of the vibration of life. So right here, what this means is these are the 5 important experiences that lead to the thoughts of how you sort of just look at life in general. They lead to your skill stack and the skills you define as important for yourself. And then they lead into the 2 pillars, the night and day, that support the main conclusion at the end of your life and what you basically, your purpose in a sense of why you incarnated here. So without further ado, let's keep going on the life path. So the way I sort of do this is I just go through all of this, past to present, wherever you may be is what resonates with you, and then the conclusion of what's going on. So I flip that, and then we figure out how we sort of get to where. I sort of do it in a different way for different signs, because, just different signs got different planets, and you gotta, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so let's get to the next life thing. So here, we have the Earth card. Learning how to be human and in a world, but not of it. So, obviously, along this whole path of being very smart, learning how you learn, being like, damn, why do people get stuck in their ruts? You gotta learn how to realize who you are, which we'll sort of get more into when we hit the path, and just kind of be like, yes, this is me. This is what I do. This is how I get down. This is what needs to be done. Do you know what I'm saying here? And sort of helping other people move through that, but at the same time, not letting it get too much to yourself. Because you can sort of take this extra responsibility on, You Libras, you always need to relate. Yeah, you're freaking at home in in Venus, and you're exalted in Saturn. So creating structure and being able to rely on people, which will be very difficult if you don't see them as equals intellectually in some type of sense, that can be tough. So you're going to learn how to just sort of be like, okay, this person may not be a star traveler or something the way I had, the way I am, Product placement, star seed, haha, There's a reason why we're looking at that. So this is just, Libras, you're just going to have to learn how to let go and sort of rely on yourself in some sense. It's kind of ironic that you're watching me and Aries Moon sort of explain this to you, being that the fact, but when it's time to reflect, sometimes you go in your opposition energy and make that 180-degree turn. Now let's move on a little bit. So, big picture thinking, right? Once you go through all this, you sort of find your place in the world. You gotta sort of just be like, okay, if I do have this ability and I am above my peers intellectually in some sense, what do I do? How do I utilize this? Do I just get big ideas? Do I just get vision? Do I just become a visionary? Do I just get freaking inspired by ideas all the time? Who knows, man? That's up to you. But once again, these little descriptions here, sometimes they may add to the vibration of the card, but it's also very important to get your own interpretation of this. Because, as you'll see in the reading, sometimes there's cards that I don't necessarily agree with the thing with, but it is what it is. But, yeah, along with the reading, so we have learning how you learn. Damn, people get stuck in ruts too. And then learning how to sort of manage that. And then moving on from that and thinking big. That's kind of, I'm not going to say it's necessarily a lot of pressure, because at the end of the day you put it on yourself, but regardless of who puts it on you, I guess it kind of is a lot of pressure. But let's move on to the future and see where you guys are sort of going. Okay, so we got the Earth pulsing, right? So this sort of ties back into the other Earth card in the sense of where it's like learning how to be human, living in this world but not of it, and just sort of your goal is basically learning how to live on Earth's time, which is nurturing, slow growth, taking the time you need to get every step you possibly can. You can learn a lot from Tauruses. I'm not going to say your roommate necessarily on Venus, because I don't agree that Venus rules Taurus, since, we call it frickin' Earth Torah for like a generation, But aside from that, this is basically just the vibration of Earth. You have to learn it. You don't have to love it, but you're going to have to live it at some point, and you'll learn that when you are learning how to be a human, you might as well live on Earth's vibration, and it's time, because it's a lot easier when you're growing up, learning how you learn, and basically putting the entire weight of the world on you. Why are you putting the weight of the world on you? You're not a world, you're a human, and this is why I put you through that learning experience to get to this point. Now, with this point, let's see what you can learn. So the next layer of this reading is basically the thoughts, the key like mental things, the key, not exactly morality, but just the sort of, what's the word here? The kind of structured thoughts that you use to sort of sit on and carry you through life. It's just like, this is how I look at this. This is what I think about it. That just is what it is. There's no dynamicness to it. It just is what it is. These are the thoughts that are basically the takeaways. That's the word. The takeaways from these experiences combined. So let's start in the past, your right side, your understanding side. So right here, we got the whale and the orca elders. Share your song, frequency of sound, diving deep. So in a nutshell, this takeaway is you're going to be like, what? Why do you have to stop? Why do you have to just be like, oh, okay, these people are in their ruts, I'm just going to keep it moving, you know? You're not going to want to stop. You're going to want to show people, dude, you can learn how you learn and improve this and refine yourself and actually become self-regulatory, you know? That's the thought from that. Let's move on. Ooh, okay. So, one thing I might add is in the beginning of this reading, I stated that the right side, your righteous side, is the path you can see, while the left side isn't. So if you can see where the text is sort of facing, that gives you a sense of insight to where this sort of takeaway is coming from. So if it's going to the left, that means that you won't see this conclusion coming. If it's going to the right, it'll be an obvious conclusion, in other words. So with that being said, this is you're not alone, right? Isolation, physical connection, community. So this means that you're trying to be relatable. You're not used to this. This is your 100-degree angle, your direct opposition. This is something that you don't, deal with. You like when you're freaking at home in Venus and your exalted place is creating structure, it's going to completely blindside you if your direct opposition hits because you put in so much work to have that support network, Libra in a nutshell is the connector, the scales. It is the support network sign itself. So this is something that you're not going to be seeing, but eventually you're going to feel isolated when you see a lot of people getting stuck into their own rut because at the end of the day, you're trying to take on the weight of the world and forget that you are a human at the end of the day and not a world. So you are not a vessel that can basically handle this capacity. You can try all you want. As we get more into this reading, when you live in the third dimension, you can see the fourth, fifth, and sixth, which is why the total of all these cards basically are 4, 5, and then if you break down 15 cards, that equals 6. And then it leads to the 3 things that you can actually see. So, yeah, in a nutshell, you're going to be having a rude awakening with realizing that you're alone. It won't be physically alone, it won't be relationship alone, it'll be intellectually alone. So, be careful for that. This is why you might not want to continue as far on the path as you may have. So, right here, what are your garden, right? This card's pretty simple. This is just the treat yourself card in a nutshell. It's just, it really speaks for itself here, like spa day, relax, whatever you define as a sort of Venus situation when you're at home out, which is harmonious, taking care of yourself, doing all that stuff. This is basically what this card means. And this is pretty much gonna, this is what's gonna combine these two experiences of learning how to be a human and then actually taking the time to sort of satisfy yourself and look at the big picture. So this treat yourself card being that you have a strong intellect here is, maybe you'll satisfy yourself. You get to go down the rabbit hole of something new every Friday. You get to go down maybe you just will actually treat yourself. Maybe you'll take a bath on Mondays, a long bath in the dark, who knows? But however you define it, this will lead to you being like, alright, I'm letting go, I don't need to feel alone. If I'm going to be alone, I'll treat myself. Damn.
Alright, hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for following this video up until this point. Hopefully it resonates with you and hopefully you really got something out of it and maybe even some deep insight on how your life has been going, the emotional paths, and you actually have a means to categorize it in a way that truly resonates with you. So, thanks for following this. If you guys actually want more and you want to see this full reading, you can click on our Patreon link below, but for now, just take a spin with me and let's see this bigger reading for the entire ecliptic that we have going on ourselves. So once again, Patreon link is in the description if you actually want to see the full reading and you can see the full end of the path, all the takeaways, and everything that you actually enjoyed up into it so far and what it actually concludes to.